Great Monday to you. Thank you for joining us here on the night of Governor Lee's first State of the State address. New Channel 5 political analyst Pat Nolan with us tonight, breaking down the speech. You are digging through your notes. We've talked a lot about it, but I think the overall sense of the speech, we heard so much about developing the workforce and getting the workforce ready to serve in Tennessee, basically.
Yeah, it's one thing he talked about an awful lot during his campaign, particularly about doing more vocational and education trainings. He's going to basically do that. He's got quite a bit of money he's going to put into that. He's also starting a program to go out in the K through 12 areas to do more in the STEM courses, the science, the technology, the engineering, and the math courses. Right. That seems to be an area he wants us to do much better in. So he's definitely putting a lot in what would be considered to be workforce development. Now that doesn't mean everybody goes to tech school, but he put a real emphasis in that. In fact, at one time during the primary, he even talked about having new facilities that were right next door to existing schools. And you know, the capital involvement in that would be pretty expensive. And I'm not sure that's what he's proposing here tonight. I think this is the get started on some of these things, but that's definitely one of the things that he's going to have new money in. And as I said, there's probably well over $100 million, if not $150 million, in new spending in this budget. Yet he's doing it because revenues are so good, with still being able to make the rainy day fund the largest it's ever been at $1.1 billion.
And it is a bit of a shift, although it shouldn't be a surprising shift because he talked about this on the campaign trail so much. But for years, and from the federal level to the local level, we've talked about getting kids ready for college and getting them to college. And Governor Lee has made it very clear he does not believe that all children are bound for college,
well,
and we need a workforce.
He said 4 out of 10 students in Tennessee right now don't attend college, and we need to do something to help those folks if they're not going to go to college. He also said that a lot of the major employers of the future, the people like Google and Yahoo and people like that, are no longer requiring college degrees in order to be considered for employment. So he says the state needs to be able to be flexible enough in how it's turning out to students so that not one size fits all. In this case, not everybody has to go to college to be successful. Yeah.
All right, let's jump back to the lines. We have Ray on the line, I do believe. Ray, are you with us? Hi, Ray, are you with us?
Yeah.
Hi there, go ahead.
I got an idea for the medical.
Okay.
Have Lee companies start paying people's insurance instead of pocketing that money.
It sounds like you may be a former employee or current employee. Is that correct?
No, I just know some.
Okay.
So they don't provide health insurance as an employee benefit?
Oh, some do, so not all.
But Lee Company specifically did not while he was in the management there. Is that what you're saying? I mean,
some got insurance, some don't.
Okay.
So,
but everybody needs insurance.
Okay. Thank you, Ray, for calling in. We also have, let me see if I can clear some of these here. Okay, let's go to Charles, I do believe it is. Charles, you with us?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi there, go ahead.
I'd like to know what they're going to put any more money for transportation and for the roads that have been flooded.
Good question. I don't think that he talked about transportation, did he?
Transportation did not come up. Of course, you remember 2 years ago when Governor Haslam was trying to get the gas tax approved. Yeah. Transportation was big as a part of that because the tax money does a lot to fund the upkeep of roads and the building of roads. And also, at that time, they went through that. Part of that bill was also to allow the referendum we had in Davidson County about a bigger mass transit system, which did not work here, but is still on the books if some of the surrounding counties or Davidson County wants to come back again and try with a different kind of program. But that did not come up on his list of priorities, at least from tonight. I'm sure there's money in there for roads, again, funded with the money that's coming out of the gas tax. Now, he did make some mention about the rainfall, and he did make a salute to the first responders who responded and rescued people from their cars and their homes, but specifically dealing with the problems that I know we have in this county with rainwater runoff and the problems that caused from creeks and to some degree rivers. I don't remember that being something he talked about.
I don't, which is surprising now that we look back on that.
Well, right after, it was happening so quickly after it happened. So.
Well, even, I mean, you look at Davidson County and the way we are growing, and he's a resident here, but I mean, not that he can focus all of his efforts and energy here.
He's a resident of Williamson County, but they had some of their problems down there too.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to ask you about some of the bills moving through the legislature this year. Let's start with the abortion bill.
The heartbeat bill.
The heartbeat bill.
There's another bill would actually say that abortion would be illegal in Tennessee the minute the Supreme Court says that Roe versus Wade is not there anymore now.
Yes.
Obviously, that's reading the tea leaves in the future and making a decision. Whether the legislature is going to want to go that far and foretell the future, I don't know. On the heartbeat bill, obviously it has a lot of support. I think the governor's supportive of it. I believe both speakers are supportive of it. I'm not sure that all the pro-life people are in support of it. I'm not sure that the pro-life people in Tennessee are for it. And the Catholic bishops have not given their endorsement.
Which is surprising.
Well, it is. I think there's a concern, at least among the Catholic bishops, that perhaps it's pushing something that probably doesn't have a very good chance in the courts of going that way.
Because it will be appealed. It will be.
Well, and it's been and similar bills have been struck down in other states. But there are some folks, I think, pushing the bill who think this is the kind of bill to get in there that if you can appeal it up, might get before this newly constituted Supreme Court with 2 new members on it that might be the beginning of a way of chipping away, if not ending, Roe versus Wade. So we'll be interested to see how that debate goes in the legislature. This was a bill that just last year was introduced, and the Attorney General said it's constitutionally suspect, and it just died on the spot.
Yeah.
It doesn't appear to be dying on the spot right now. In fact, I think it's getting pretty close to getting out on the floor in the House. And if it gets on the floor of the House, my guess it'll pass. In the Senate, I'm not quite as sure. They are 2 very different bodies, and just because one passes it doesn't mean the other will, but I would lean towards thinking they might pass it as well. And the governor says he'll sign it, so then I guess it'll be a court case. And I'm sure Planned Parenthood and others will, and maybe the ACLU and others will file a lawsuit about that, and we'll see what happens. As so many things are on hot-button issues, we wind up putting them in the courts to be decided.
Yes. Just like in the couple of years past, this year there are several efforts to pass marijuana, medical marijuana. The governor has said he is more comfortable with just the CBD, going that route. What do you think? There seems to me so many different bills on this issue.
Yeah, I have not clear in my mind whether having more bills and more choice, people love choice in our country today, but on the other hand, more choice may also be more division among those who are generally supportive.
Is it clouding the issue?
Well, it may be the point where they can't get 50 votes in the House and 17 in the Senate to pass any one bill. I think each year it kind of inches a little closer towards getting that way. I mean, remember, there's 30 states in the country that allow medical marijuana to take place. Again, we're not talking about being Colorado
recreational
use. We're not talking recreational here at all. It does seem to me the argument that it's a gateway situation is fading a little bit, but
clearly the governor is not for it.
No, I'm sure he'd just as soon it not come to his desk. We haven't seen how the governor does in being able to actually stop legislation, although he did ask in the bill that's pending to do something about sports gambling. He did ask the sponsors not to push forward on that. Lots of states are going to do that. Supreme Court says it's legal to do that. We have a lottery. They'd like to do the same thing for sports gambling, although I don't think the state would actually run the program. It would be a place for money, new money that we don't even have in this budget, for education and things like that, and for local governments.
But you've heard that he has gone to the sponsors and said, please.
And they have said they will at least pull back on it for right now. Now, they indicated they might push it later in the session. And remember, this year, if they don't pass it, it can still come back next year. You don't have to reintroduce it and start all over again. So it'll be interesting to see whether they decide to go ahead and do that or push it. He has said he is morally against gambling. In this particular case, he's against that as well. I also understand from talking to Emily Luxon, there's a bill up there that would basically legalize March Madness lotteries. Well,
we are doing a story on that for tonight at NewsChannel 5
when she told me that, I said, well, they better hurry because March Madness lotteries start in about 2 weeks, and they don't generally move that fast.
No.
But again, I'm not sure what the governor thinks about that. That's maybe not nearly on the scale of what sports gambling would be.
Right. I think it caps it. I don't know the cap. You'll have to tune in tonight, but it does cap it. Now, I don't know if that makes a difference in the governor's mind.
What do you think about that coming to his desk? It's gambling too.
Yes.
And I'm not doing anything to make fun of his religious beliefs.
Sure.
A lot of people feel the same way he does, but there's a lot of different ways to put bills like that up that will have something to do with gambling. Is he okay with a little of it, not this much of it, or maybe not any of it at all? So he might push against that as well. But if they want to do something for this year's March Madness, they better hurry up.
Anything else that you are following very closely?
I'll just be interested to see how they work this year to go forward with new leadership in the House and all the new members that are there. So far, they seem to be pretty much of a same mind. Now, the one thing the governor didn't talk about tonight that I thought he might, and that's this whole issue about public records, about, there are bills in the legislature now to basically make all the 911 calls secret. There's other things going on, and there's this big fight about what ought to be public records and the request for public records, how far we ought to go. And the governor has a couple times said some things that sounded like he was on the side of making more public than not public, but it didn't come up as a topic tonight. And I thought that was kind of interesting. And it'd be interesting to go back and ask him, okay, what about this? Is there any legislation you're going to be talking about? Even you didn't talk about it in the speech, but there's some things you want to push, because there are a lot of people hoping that he might do some things. I mean, the Constitution of the state says that all the records ought to be open unless the legislature decides not to make them open. Well, that doesn't tell you a whole lot.
No, it doesn't. No,
but that's kind of where we are, and I thought he might say something about it tonight, but he didn't.
All right, Pat, thank you. We're going to come back and wrap things up. Stay with us.